So just last month, a friend of mine nearly made a big, dreadful mistake that would have cost her big time. And when she told me, I was like, nah, I need to share this with my YouTube family because I believe that this is going to help so many people. It's going to be so helpful to so many people. And that is why I'm here today. I'll try and go straight to the point so that we don't waste too much time, okay? Stop that. So hi guys, if it's your first time here, my name is Oveeseas. On this channel I talk about migrating to the UK, like opportunities for people to migrate to the UK and living in the UK as an immigrant in general. Okay, so if these are topics that interest you in any way, please consider subscribing. So my friend, she's a sponsorship holder and her husband is also a sponsorship holder. Okay, and they decided that because they want to make more money and save more money, one should switch to a dependent visa. So when they switch to a dependent visa, the one who is now a dependent visa does not need a COS to do any job, and she can pick as many extra shifts as she wants and make more money so that they can save. So she will now depend on the partner's COS, you know, to be in the UK. So this was a good idea. When they told me, I honestly thought it was a good idea because now she can do so many things and then it will not affect her permanent residency application, right? So when it was time for her to renew her visa, she's been here for 3 years and now she's extending her visa. She decided that she's not going to get any COS from her employer. She's going to use her husband's COS and apply as a dependent. Okay, to me that was good news because my friend can now do so many other shifts and not be in trouble in the future. And she put in this application. So whilst this application was with the Home Office, she was waiting for the outcome of the application. She was speaking about this to somebody that has lots of knowledge on immigration. And the person was like, what? Do you know what you've just done? And she was like, what? And the person explained to her, and that's what I'm going to tell you today. So this video is proudly sponsored by TransferGo. So TransferGo is an international money transfer app that allows you to send money from UK and other European countries to countries like Ghana or Nigeria. When you send the money, the person gets the exact amount that you're sending. When you send the money, in at most 30 minutes, the person is going to get the money. When you check trustpilot.com, TransferGo is rated the best financial transfer service, period. When you check Trustpilot, they are rated the best. Okay, they are currently being used by over 4 million people. 4 million people are already hooked onto TransferGo. That means they have something very good to offer, isn't it? So they are very convenient, they are very reliable, and their customer support, oh my god, 24/7, they're going to respond to your query or your issues. Okay, download TransferGo, whether you use an iPhone, whether you use an Android or whatever. Use a link in the description to download TransferGo and make your first transfer. When you send the money, the person can either receive it in Ghana cedi, even in US dollar or in Naira. Okay, they are very good, they are very reliable, and you will love them. Okay, thank you so much TransferGo for sponsoring today's video. So you know that in the UK there are different visa categories, right? We have like the tier 1 visas, like under which we have like the global talent visa, the startup innovator visa, blah blah blah. We have the tier 2 visas or the skilled worker visas, under which we have the health and care worker visas for doctors and nurses and care assistants to move to the UK. And then we have like the tier 4 for students that are coming to study in the UK. And all of these visa categories have their benefits and their restrictions. Okay, so for instance, I am a nurse and I'm on a health and care worker visa, which is under the tier 2 or the skilled worker visa. Some of the benefits I enjoy is that I can bring my partner and my children as dependents to join me in the UK, and I can school whilst working in the UK so long as it doesn't affect my work, and you know, all those other things. I can enjoy free healthcare in the UK. Like, those are the benefits under my visa category. Okay, and then I also have restrictions under the same kind of visa. Some of the restrictions are that 1, I do not have access to public funds. Okay, and then 2, I can only take 1 extra job. Okay, and that job, I'm not supposed to do more than 20 hours a week for that job. That job should have the same occupation code or should be a job on the shortage occupation list. So for instance, me as a nurse, as a main applicant, I can only take an extra 20 hours job, and that job should also be a nursing job. I cannot say I want to work as a cashier in Tesco and Go, because 1, cashiers are not under the shortage occupation list, and the occupation code for cashiers is different from occupation code for nurses. I cannot do that. Okay, so those are the kind of restrictions that I have on my visa. And if you do not go by the restrictions, on your visa, you know that for some of the visa categories, example, the visa that I am on, like the tier 2 or the skilled worker visa, visa. After 5 years of continuous stay in the UK, you qualify to apply for the indefinite leave to remain, which is like the settlement. Like after that, you don't need any sponsor to be in the UK anymore. You have like permanent status in the UK, like you're a permanent resident in the UK. You can go and come back at any time. You don't need a visa to enter the UK. Like, so lots of people are waiting for that time to apply for the indefinite leave to remain. If you don't go by these like restrictions and during your indefinite leave to remain, you can have issues. Okay, so people really do have to go by this. Okay, however, me as a main applicant, these are my restrictions I just mentioned. However, my dependent, that is my partner, he does not have any limitations to the number of jobs he can do. That's strange, right? He does not have restrictions to the number of jobs he can do. So if he has strength, he can work for Tesco, he can work for 10 different companies so far as he has the energy and he's willing to pay tax for all these companies. He can work for as much as he can because he is not tied to any particular employer. He does not need a COS to do any of those jobs. He, as my dependent, has all these other benefits, okay? So each, like I said, each visa category has like the benefits, right? I'm getting somewhere, so just stay with me. This 20 hours restriction that I mentioned, okay, during the COVID, when they needed so many nurses, needed a lot of nurses to take care of, COVID patients, blah, 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 they scraped this 20 hours off. But now there are rumors that it's coming back, whatever. So there are some people, like my friend that I mentioned earlier, they are married to people that also have tier 2 visas. Okay, so let's say 2 nurses that are married, just an example, let's say there are 2 nurses that are married, okay, and let's say they all came to the UK with a COS, so now they are all like main applicants, like main sponsorship holders for tier 2 visa, main sponsorship holders, okay, nobody is a dependent because they all came with like a COS, okay. Now they want to make more money as a couple, okay? So because they don't want to have this restriction on their visa, because now if you are a main sponsorship holder, you can't work for that extra more than 20 hours for a second employer, like I mentioned, and that other job should definitely be on the social occupation. And we all know that it's a bit inconvenient, and we all know that if you, for instance, if you work with the NHS, okay, and then you're contracted for 37.5 hours and you can only do extra 20 hours overtime, lots of people are going to start struggling financially. These days, lots of nurses are able to make more money because of the 20 hours extra that was scraped off. So people are picking so many shifts overtime and making huge money. That's how lots of nurses were satisfied, okay? So now that they are saying they are bringing that cap back, blah, 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 lots of nurses would like to explore other channels, okay? I actually have a nurse friend who says that, Danielle, immediately I get my permanent residency, I'm stopping nursing, I'm going to work at Tesco, okay? Lots of people have like other dreams or other aspirations and they want to explore other things, but because of this restriction on their visa and they don't want it to affect their permanent residency application, they tend to like just go ahead, okay? So apparently, I don't know why this is like that, but apparently if you switch, okay, from one type of visa, especially if you switch to a dependent visa, okay, all the years that you spent on the other visa will not be counted towards the years that you need to apply for your indefinite leave to remain. So my friend, having spent 3 years on her main sponsorship visa, now that she's switching to a dependent visa, in 2 years time she was due to apply for the permanent residency in the UK because she has already spent 3 years. In 2 years time she was looking forward to applying for the permanent residency. However, if she was switching to a dependent visa, she's now going to start counting her years from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that means she'd have to live here for extra 5 years, together 8 years before she can apply for permanent residency. So all the years that she spent in the UK on the main sponsorship visa is not counted towards her indefinite leave to remain application. Yes. So when she heard that, obviously she did her research and she phoned Home Office and they actually confirmed this. So what she did was she withdrew the application because she had not gotten a decision yet. So she withdrew the application and then got a COS from her employer and then reapplied to be in that same visa category because she doesn't want the 3 years she spent here to go waste. Every person on a tier 2 visa or whatever visa category is waiting for that day that they can apply for permanent residency. And if you get your indefinite leave to remain or your permanent residency, 12 months after that, you qualify to apply for a British passport. That's the icing on the cake that most immigrants are waiting for that day. So imagine that she's lived in the UK for 3 years, obeying all the rules, obeying all the regulations, and she's never had any issues. She's waiting for that day that she'll get this. And then because she wants to, enjoy some some extra cash, she makes this mistake, and now all those 3 years is waste. Gone. Let me show you this from the gov.uk page, okay? I'll leave the link to all I'm saying in the description so you can head over to the gov.uk page and read it for yourself, okay? So, when you're applying for indefinite leave to remain, okay, this is what they said. Eligibility for partners, okay? Your partner may qualify if all the following apply. 1, they have permission to be in the UK as your partner, into brackets, as a dependent on your visa. 2, they've lived in the UK with you as a dependent for at least 5 continuous years. 3, your relationship is genuine. 4, you intend to keep living together. 5, you have enough income to support yourselves and your dependent. And the last one is you're not using public funds, okay? So these are what makes you eligible as a partner or as a dependent to apply for indefinite leave to remain, okay? But this is where the main issue is. Your partner can include time they spent as your dependent on another visa to count towards the continuous years they need to qualify. They cannot count any time spent on their own visa, not as your dependent. Let me take that part again. They cannot count any time spent on their own visa, not as your dependent. So what they are saying is that, let's say you're on the tier 1 visa, okay, and your partner was your dependent on the tier 1 visa, okay, and you switched to a tier 2 visa and they remained your dependent. They can count the number of years that they spent as your dependent on the tier 1 visa, okay, they can count that one. Let's say they spent 2 years on that one, and then they spent, let's say, 3 years as a dependent on the tier 2 visa. They can combine those years to apply for the indefinite leave to remain because they were dependent in both visa categories. However, any time that they spent on their own visas is not going to be counted. So dependents can be counted. Their own visa and switching to a dependent visa, those years cannot be counted because it's a different visa category altogether. So this is it. Before you switch to a dependent visa because you want to enjoy the dependent visa benefits, because there are no hours restriction in the number of jobs you can do, please take note of this. Let's say you've only been in the UK for 8 months. I have a friend who still went ahead to switch because he doesn't care. He's only been in the UK for like almost a year and he wants to be able to work hard, okay, and make a lot of money, so without this affecting his ILR application in future. So he switched because he said he doesn't mind losing those months that he's been in the UK. He doesn't mind. But for people that have been in the UK for 4 years, let's say you've been in the UK for 4 years and 11 months, if you switch, everything else is not counted. You are now starting the 5 years afresh. Okay, especially if you switch from your like a main visa to a dependent visa, the main visa will not be counted. It's what your dependent visa does that will be counted. So please bear that in mind. Okay, I'll leave links to the gov.uk website explaining this in the description so you can head over and then read it yourself. So if you are in the process of doing this, the good news is you can quickly just cancel or withdraw the application before you get a decision and get a COS and just reapply as a main applicant again. Okay, so that's it. However, let me also add that for some visa categories, you can actually combine the years that you spent on other visas, okay, and that's also on the gov.uk website. They said if you've had more than one visa in the 5 years you've lived in the UK, you can include times you've had on any combination on the following visas, okay. So time spent on any categories of these like visas can be combined to get your 5 years to apply for your ILR. Any tier 1 visa except tier 1 graduate entrepreneur, skilled worker or tier 2 general, not dependent, skilled worker or tier 2 general, you can combine years spent on this and another visa to get your 5 years, okay. Skilled up worker, you can combine that one. Tier 2 minister of religion or tier 2 minister of religion, you can combine that and another visa. You see, international sports person or tier 2 sports person or tier 2 sports person, whatever. Innovator, global talent, representative of an overseas business. So if you spent, let's say, 1 year on one of these visa categories I've mentioned, 2 years here, you can add those years that you spent on those visas to get your 5 years and apply for the ILR, okay. They didn't mention tier 4 visa here, they didn't mention tier 2 dependents, okay. So you have to know all these things. However, I am not an immigration lawyer, so if you need like detailed explanation, please contact a professional immigration advisor, okay. But I just thought I should let you know because this would have cost my friend. Imagine you've been waiting to enjoy public funds, you've been waiting to enjoy all these benefits, and then it's time you go and apply and they tell you no, you've only been here for 2 years because we don't regard all the number of years you spent on your own visa. Can you imagine? Those would have been painful. So guys, just do your research before you switch from your own visa to a dependent visa because it can cost you. Okay, thank you so much for watching.